of the Realtor Association of Pioneer Valley's Community Hours Program, where we talk with elected leaders from communities throughout the greater Pioneer Valley area. I'm your host, Peter Ruffini, and I serve the association as both a member of the Board of Directors and Chair of the Government Affairs Committee. With me today, as always, is CEO Brendan Bailey, and a couple of special guests. We have RAPV President Elias Acuna and RAPV Immediate Past President Sue Drumm. Now, today we're pleased to be joined by the Mayor of the City of Agawam, the Honorable William Sapelli. Mayor Sapelli, thanks for being with us today to talk about what's happening in Agawam.
You're welcome, Peter. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this opportunity to promote our community and to answer some of your pointed questions regarding Agawam and what we're all about.
Absolutely. So we're going to get started with our immediate past president, Sue, who, as you know, is a constituent over in Agawam and a proud Agawam resident. So Sue, take it away.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Mayor Sapelli. I really appreciate you joining us this morning. We know how involved you are in the community, and as an Agawam resident and as an Agawam parent, there's a lot of things in our town that impact property owners. And one of our biggest things is we advocate for the protection of private property rights and the housing industry. So it kind of goes hand in hand, our school system. And I know as you were the previous superintendent of schools, you have worked diligently over the years to advocate for some new schools in our district and in our town. Specifically, recently is the high school. And I was just wondering if you could update everyone, because schools do impact property values and it would be a great asset to our town. Can you tell us where that stands?
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, we're very proud of our school system here in Agawam. We have 8 schools in town. We have a preschool. We have 4 elementary schools that are grades K to 4. We have a middle school, which is grades 5 and 6. A junior high, which is 7 and 8, and our high school is 9 through 12. We have approximately 3,800 students in Agawam. And right now, what we've been doing is looking at our high school, and there was a NEASC evaluation, which is a professional group that comes out and evaluates your high school for accreditation purposes every 10 years. Well, one thing that they cited Agawam High School as being insufficient in the science wing area. The science labs specifically, they felt needed some upgrading. The building itself is a 1955 building, the original shell of the building. And since 1955, I believe there have been 4 different additions put on, different wings. And the high school is probably, I would guess, the largest single-story high school in the state. It's massive. They never went up. They just kept going out like a spider. So some of the different areas need some attention, if you will. The roof needs attention right now. The science wing needs attention. The boilers need attention. We've put in for a new school. We've submitted to MSBA, the Mass School Building Association, which is the organization that funds school. And right now the reimbursement from them is about 58% that they will pay, and the community has to pay the other. And we've been placing our application in with them since, I'm going to say, as early as 2005. And I was part of that because at that point I was in central office as the assistant superintendent and became superintendent in 2011. And we've actually had the MSBA with their architects come out and walk the building with the principal and myself to take a look at the different areas of the building that they evaluate you on, such as the boilers, the panel boxes, the roof, the access, the labs, and things of that nature. And to this point, we've been on the list but low, and other communities have come up ahead of us to be granted a new building and to be allowed to have the benefit of that 58% grant. At this point in the system, we did put in for what they call an accelerated repair program. And in that, we also checked off that we want to be considered for a new high school as well. We don't want to be putting good money after bad. So if we could qualify for a brand new school, and if the city council and the community felt that that was something that they wanted to support through our tax dollars, because as I mentioned, we would still have to come up with approximately 40% of that build. And we put in for that, and now we're being considered for a new high school. They're coming out, excuse me, I shouldn't say that. This year, because of COVID, they are not coming out, but they had us do a virtual tour of the building with the boiler rooms and the panel boxes and the roof and the hallways and the doors and the access and the gymnasium and the cafeteria and every part of the building. We did a virtual tour, which I know realtors are very familiar with those any time of year, but especially now with the pandemic going on. So we've done that, and they're going to evaluate that and let us know whether they will consider us for a brand new school or if they're just going to honor the accelerated repair, which I know that for sure we're at least going to be getting those monies. So that's where we stand right now. They're in the process of evaluating that virtual tour that we gave them of the school, and they've been asking pointed questions. They will continue to do that and dig a little deeper, and then they'll make their determination.
Wonderful. Thank you. We look forward to their determination for sure. And hopefully, even my children will benefit hopefully from some of those improvements, but you know how things can take a long time. So thank you for working so hard on that. We appreciate it. And now my second topic, I guess, is a hot button around town is high-speed internet. I know you've had some talks about, I think you established a task force, if I'm not mistaken, to look at the cable in town and the internet. Can you explain to us where that stands?
Yes, we formed a task force. I formed a task force to look into our options because right now, the pricing, the speed of the current Comcast program that we have, people have had some issues with. And most recently, as we all know, there was a big pushback because they were talking about putting a data cap on. And they've since removed that, at least for the short term. They pushed that out a year. But it did bring attention to the need for a more effective and efficient system, if you will. And right now, they're kind of the only game in town. So I felt it was important for us to form a task force and see what are our options. Do we want to completely take it over as a municipality? Do we want to farm it out to someone else? Or do we want to stay with Comcast and see if they can do some upgrades that'll make us more appropriate with the needs we have, because everybody's doing streaming now. One of the things that happened because of COVID, more people are working from home and using that data and using up a lot of data. So it showed and brought more of a focus onto the need for a good system. Fortunately for us, this task force has already looked into a couple of companies, and there's one in particular that we think, if we chose to go with them, could possibly get us on board and running in a year, which was way ahead of what we were thinking. We were thinking if we went with some of these other companies, it might take up to 3 years to string all this new fiber and get us up and running. But I think right now we've got some options. We have some options that are looking very positive. In the short time that this committee has been formed, some of it's a lot of luck because it was a company that was coming in anyway, and we're looking at having some answers very soon. And it all looks good at this point where we are going to have some options. Comcast has reached back to us and they want to sit down and see what they can do. So they've stepped up a little bit. So we're going to weigh all our options, but there's going to be some improvements coming for sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I applaud you for all your work you're doing on that. I know the town really appreciates it. With that, I am going to have to jump over to my other meeting, but thank you very much for being here. And I'm sure that Peter Ruffini is going to bring up the fact that the train is always in my way. He likes to tease me about the train being across the tracks, but I'll leave that to all of you fine gentlemen. And thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to join you, even if it was briefly. So
thank you, Sue.
Sue, thank you for joining us.
Keep up the great work.
So yeah, Sue actually brought up two very important issues when it comes to prospective buyers selecting where they want to live, which is high-speed internet and school systems. The high-speed internet is more important now than it ever has been because of COVID. But I wanted to switch gears for a second to talk about something that caught my attention recently in a business publication that I saw. And back in December, you flipped the ceremonial switch at the new Vanguard Renewables Organics Recycling Facility. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I wanted to get your take on that. And how does that impact the type of businesses that Agawam will seek moving forward?
We're very proud and feel very fortunate that Vanguard chose our community to move into. And a lot of that has to do with our tax rates. We've kept our tax rates very low, comparatively speaking, as a split rate, which Agawam has commercial and residential. We are the lowest split rate in the area. And that's probably one of the things that attracted them initially. The fact that they were able to work well with our different services here, our town, our community, our inspection services, and the permitting process, we helped them expedite when they came in. But what that's going to do for us, they're only one of maybe 4 in New England, and they're in Agawam. I believe they have 1 in Eastern Mass, there's 1 in Maine, these type of recyclable plants. And this one's brand new. They built this from scratch, so it's really state of the art. I went over there for a ribbon cutting and witnessed what it does, and it's phenomenal. And it's interesting what it does is it takes organic products. Let's say, for instance, let's use HP Hood, which is right next door. It's going to be using them quite a bit. If they have cottage cheese, let's say, or milk or ice cream, that expiration date is up. Normally what that would happen with that, it would go in the landfill as is. Now what happens with Vanguard, they take those products and they separate the container from the organic material in the container, whether it's cheese or milk or ice cream, whatever it may be. Now with that organic material, they make a slurry, which they eventually take and put in tankers and ship that off to the dairy farms, who mix that with the cow manure and produces gas. It's an amazing process. They also take the container that these products came in and they recycle those properly. So it's really good for the environment and in many, many ways. And it's very clean. They have filters, because one thing we were concerned about is there going to be any type of smell or issues? They drive into a bay, they're inside, they're contained when they're emptying their trucks, and they have all sorts of different filters and devices that takes care of that issue. And it has not been an issue, and we're very happy to have them here.
Well, yeah, that seemed like the definition of a win-win when I read about it, and I was actually eager to ask you when we had the opportunity to interview. So that's great. So one of the reasons why we also like to do these interviews and discussions is to let our elected leaders know, if they're not aware, that, you know, look, we're not only do we do business in the communities of the Pioneer Valley, but we live here too. And so we have a vested interest in the quality of life and, you know, how our communities continue to evolve over time. And we have the ability and the desire to partner with the communities, and we have a variety of ways that we can do that. And I want to turn it over to Brendan, our very capable CEO, to kind of give a brief overview of some of the ways that we are both able to and very willing to help out with.
Certainly. Thanks, Peter. And again, Mayor Sapelli, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, you know, it's one of the interesting things of being a, you know, nonprofit trade association. We have us on the local level, and then we also have, there's 13 of us actually across the state. And then there's the state association, the Massachusetts Association of Realtors. And then there's the obvious, you know, the big one, the National Association of Realtors. And through that network, we have an amazing amount of tools in our toolbox. Everything from general bill analysis to smart growth grants that we can do to put on a smart growth symposium and work with your office to do something like that. I mean, the possibilities are really endless that are there. We have a great relationship with our state association specifically that has a staff member in their government affairs team that is an expert in local policy kind of throughout the Northeast and can draw on a lot of resources. So as an example, Mark Strange, your city planner, that he and I have had some of these conversations about this kind of stuff. And it's really great that we have this available, all to say that when you need us, or if you need us for comment, question, or even if something is like not really making sense, or how are other areas dealing with this, you can call us and we can do that analysis for you and help with that process. That way we can work on something that'll be great for everybody going forward. So, we always like to focus on education and how can we work on something together to move forward all, for the better next step, rather than being those, as opposed to another group that would potentially say, hey, you can't do that. We'll say, well, yeah, we can possibly do it, but let's figure out how we can work on it together. And here are the resources that we have. And especially, like I mentioned, some of the things like the smart growth, things like that, where we can actually bring in stakeholders from around the country in partnership with our national association and have them come and literally do a walk through, let's say, downtown Agawam with yourself, some of your other elected officials, and start pointing out, hey, this is what they're doing in similar areas across the country. Have you thought about using this building in this way? Non-COVID times this is much easier to do, but it's something like that that's even very hands-on. First-time homebuyer programs, we could set up something in partnership with you guys to help residents understand what programs are available for them out there, not just in Massachusetts, but on a broader scale and national programs that they could take part of. So have a lot of items that we can be a help to Agawam. We're excited to continue the relationship.
We appreciate that. That sounds like you have quite a few resources that could be beneficial to our community and, of course, our Economic Development Planning Office. So thank you for that.
Certainly.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add on that is we have different kind of grant programs as well. And a couple of years back, you may be aware, the Realtor Association of Pioneer Valley was able to help with the funding for the Agawam Dog Park, which was a good way for our members to be involved and again, help improve the community. Now, before we end, because we respect your time, we don't want to keep you here all morning, but we would like to give you an opportunity to, what would you like us to know that we haven't discussed so far?
Well, I think we did hit on a lot of different issues, and one of the things that we're very proud of here in Agawam was when I was working on the school side, and I was there for 40 years, believe it or not, before I retired as superintendent. I was hearing from the realtors in the area oftentimes that Agawam was one of the most popular communities to move to for a variety of reasons, the least of which was our school system and some of our parks and our amenities that we have, and certainly our tax rate, which I mentioned earlier. We have the lowest split tax rate in the area. Our residential rate is $16.80 per thousand, the mill rate, which went down 3 cents from last year. So we reduced the mill rate by 3 cents. And the commercial is $31.46, which is the lowest split rate around. And that went down 14 cents from last year. So we're always considerate of the businesses and the tax rates that they are paying and how it's tough times right now. So we, the city council and I made a concerted effort last year to focus on our overall budget and say, okay, we have a tough year coming with this COVID. So let's see what we can do to keep these taxes down. And we did that. So that's one thing that really attracts people, the school system, the tax rate, and some of the amenities that we have. You mentioned the dog park. We have School Street Park. Obviously, Six Flags New England is located in Agawam. The Big E is right over the bridge. It might as well be in Agawam. I'm looking at it right now out my window from City Hall here. So we have a lot to offer here. We're developing a piece of property up in Feeding Hills at 300 acres called, we refer to it as the Tuckahoe property because Tuckahoe Farms used to have that as a turf farm. We own that now as a municipality, and we're starting to develop that into some passive recreation at this point, eventually looking to do more active recreation and put some ball fields in and things of that nature as well. We're helping fund that by putting a solar field in right now on a part of that parcel. And we have a pilot that we're going to earmark that monies to help develop this area and put in some walking trails and develop the pond that's already existing there. And it's interesting when I talk to realtors, they'll tell me that in Agawam, there's very few homes available. When they go off the market very quickly and there's bidding wars. So we're very, very proud to hear that. Our location is great. I mean, we're right near the highways. Route 57 brings you right into 91. We're 20 minutes from the Bradley Airport. So it's a real ideal location, and it's a great community to bring up a family, to live, work, start a business, and to raise a family here in Agawam. And we're very proud of that, and we're continually working on how to make it even better. And with assistance from people like you and the resources you have to offer us, we're getting there, and we're very proud of those facts.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It certainly sounds like you guys are on top of it over there. And, specifically with regard to the split rates, it's vitally important, as you know, and you stated, for towns and cities to be competitive, to attract businesses and have that balance between residential and commercial tax rates. And really appreciate your time today. I want to turn it over to Elias Acuna, our president this year, who wants to say a couple of words.
Yeah, just a thank you again for joining us. We know your time is valuable, and we really think it's important to have open communication between us and our elected officials. So please utilize us if you need a resource in the future. Again, as Brendan said, we've got a lot of different things we can help out with. Anything housing related, obviously let us know. And just so that you know, there's 15 houses today on the market in Agawam. So yeah, not a lot of available homes, tons and tons of demand. So yeah, they fly pretty quick.
Yes, that's not a lot for a community this size. We have almost 30,000 people.
Not a lot.
So,
It is certainly a concern that we have in all areas, but we are always looking for opportunities to increase our inventory, especially now with such high demand and the low inventory that we're seeing.
Well, that's good for us if we have all our homes filled, and that's a good thing. And these bidding wars that go out because there's such a low inventory, it's not good for you guys maybe, but for me, that's a good thing. And one thing I probably should have added is that we have a fire and police department that are second to none. And that also is what's attractive to home buyers. We have an ambulance service here that's just phenomenal. We run 3 ambulances out of the fire stations all the time. And we have every one of our fire personnel, our staff, are medically trained to the nth degree, and we get nothing but accolades from anyone, unfortunately, that has to use their services on what a great job they do.
It's good to have nice services in a town like that. So, all right, again, thank you. I don't know, Brendan, do you have anything else, or Peter?
Well, I'll add, Mr. Mayor, if you have another minute, one thing that I think would be nice to mention before we end is, I'm sure you're aware, the Governor Baker's housing bill recently passed the legislature, and which changed the threshold for development in communities across Massachusetts. And because when we're having this conversation about lack of inventory, we certainly need to talk about that bill, because we've been lobbying for legislation to help ease and make it easier for more construction of new homes throughout the Commonwealth. That's really what's fueling the housing shortage across the state. So how do you see Agawam fitting in with this new legislation? Have you had time to kind of digest this? And how about some other alternatives for the housing crunch? For example, accessory dwelling units. That's a hot topic wherever you go around the state. Anything that you'd like to add in that context?
Well, we've keeping a close eye on it. One thing that Agawam does have that many communities don't have, and the expression in the field is we have dirt. We have property that's open where you can build. We have a 55 plus units going up on South Westfield Street. Presently, there's 42 units going in there for people age 55 and older. And I believe every one of them spoken for, they've sold quickly. And it's right at the end of 57. So the access to the different highways is right there. And so that went quickly. We have a couple of other housing developments being brought in front of our planning as we speak. So we do have room for different development. And as I said, one thing that works out well for Agawam is, number one, you have to have the land that's able to be built on, number one. And number two, it helps when you have a community that's is very friendly to development, and that helps you in the whole process of getting permitted. And we have a team that we get together. So it's one-stop shopping. We have the health, the inspection services, the fire, the police, the planning, all sitting at this table at the same time. So anybody that comes in to planning with a prospective either housing or a business and wants to come in and find out what they need to do, they can come and sit at this table and have these individuals answer many of their questions, whether it's offsets, whether it's any of the other issues that they deal with before they even go to the planning board. So that's helpful, and we're doing a lot of those types of things. Agawam is an interesting community. I really am a little disappointed with the definition that is used by the state for low-income housing, quite frankly, because people suggest that Agawam hasn't met that 5% threshold, and that's because that's the state's definition of what low-income housing is all about, and that would be involving the Section 8s, issues like that. Agawam, if you look around, there's plenty of housing that's in that price range for people that are mid to low income levels, that there are opportunities for them, whether it's apartments or houses that are in that price range that they can afford. So in my definition, there is plenty of affordable housing. When I was on the school side, based on our free reduced lunch program, we had about 40% of our students that were on free and reduced lunch, which means they're in the low income area. So they're living somewhere. So for people to suggest we don't have enough affordable housing, I don't necessarily agree with that. It depends on which definition you use and what criteria and data you use to identify those particular dwellings, if you will. But yeah, we are watching that closely. The fact that you just need a majority vote now is very helpful. I'm sure to pass a lot of different legislation. And that was a big deal with that bill. So we're keeping an eye on that, and we think we're in a good position right now.
Excellent. Well, again, Mr. Mayor, I want to say thank you on behalf of myself, Brendan, Elias, all the members here at Realtor Association of Pioneer Valley, Sue as well. And really thank you for your time this morning. Great conversation. And on your last piece, I think that's something we can certainly, touch base with you on at some point in the near future to try to help address that.
Peter,
again,
before we
go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, before we jump, I think Elias had a comment for the mayor on his last piece just before we.
Yeah, it's just when it comes to affordable housing, we like to focus on housing affordability versus affordable housing and how we can make it available to everybody. But just as Peter said, we can certainly have other conversations with you as to how we can be a resource in helping with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's basically what I was suggesting, as you could tell, and that's why you made that comment. We do have wayfinders coming in with a development probably in the next year or so that is affordable housing by the state's definition. They're coming with a project that's been on the books now for 4 years, I want to say, but they haven't started breaking ground yet, but I see that coming within the next year or so.
Excellent. Apologies, Elias. Didn't see you there.
That's all good.
So, and I think we just touched on one thing that we can certainly help partner on. So again, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for your time this morning. We greatly appreciate it. And we look forward to talking again at some point in the future and certainly partnering with you any way that we can.
I appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen, very, very much. It was nice meeting all of you, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Have
Thank
a great
you, sir.
week.
Thanks, you too. Take care. Stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye. All right.